I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Commanders podcast. But for how long the name may change, KDot, I am Amit, and that is KDot. KDot, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, but before we go any further, I want to take it over for a second and wish you, and have everybody wish you, a happy belated birthday, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir.
So how many lines did you do at Clarendon?
Oh, just the good old zero, as I've always
Zero.
done and maintained.
Okay.
I have done zero. I did not even go to Clarendon, but I do greatly appreciate the birthday wishes. And a wish of mine for all of you is to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you see how we did that.
I see.
And then hit the notification bell, stuff like that. It makes a huge difference for us. And please comment as you always do. Today's rundown, we're going to be talking about the trademark. So we alluded to it. The Washington Commanders name, is it going to change? Some people really want it to. It hit a bit of a snag in the trademark process. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to get into OTAs. A couple big pieces of news. Chase Young, not there. Armani Rogers looks like he tore his ACL, which is, I know, KDot, you're really high on him. I'm high on him too. And that, to me, is a pretty big blow. We'll get into what it means for our season, what it means for the offense. And then we get into the comment mailbag, as we always do. And then after the pod, where we're going to be talking about maybe some succession, maybe some golf. I don't know. Maybe some Wizards got a new GM. I don't know. We'll go ahead and talk about it. But yeah, seriously. But let's go ahead and get started with the trademark news. So here's the deal. When we were named the Washington Commanders, Jason Wright and many, many others had said, we are going to do this because we don't anticipate running into any issues, such as with the Red Wolves we would, or with just the Wolves we would. And so we wanted this to be as smooth a process as possible. Well, turns out it hit a bit of a snag. So the USPTO, which I believe is the Patent and Trademark Office, I also couldn't gotten the acronym completely wrong, but the USPTO, that's perfect.
I used to do contract work for them.
Oh, how about it? Well, anyway, so they denied the they denied it, and so we are going to see what happens. But based on Washington Post article and based on the other stuff I've been reading, KDot, this is more of a non-story, just a bit of a snag. There's like the Commanders Classic and just Commanders in the U.S. military, and so they're like, oh, it might get confused. I think it's kind of a weak argument, to be honest. The name, I'm pretty sure, is going to end up staying. What do you think, KDot?
Same deal. I mean, right now what you're dealing with is that this is all from what anyone in the know, any patent lawyers or anything, that was like, oh, it's just part of the process. So in that realm, it's like, I if I were to put money on it, I'd say the name probably sticks. I think the bigger thing is that, I mean, we've talked about it as far as ever since they made the name change, we've been doing this pod, and the fan reaction to it has been at best, pretty much behind the entire name. And I think you still have a lot of people that want to go back to the original name, and they're never going to be satisfied with anything other than that. So anytime that you have something, even beyond that, you have people that just don't like the Commander's name. I'm a believer that any name, almost every name, sounds dumb until you get enough time with it. But I think when you have a fan base that is so not well received on this particular name, any story that breaks in any sort of way that shows, oh wow, this wasn't a smooth process, or oh wow, this didn't work out in this way, everyone's going to jump on it. And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. I mean, look, I will 100% admit that when I did hear that, without digging into the details, but just looking at the headlines, looking at the tweets, I was like, oh, because in the same breath they did confirm, or they approved, the Washington football team name.
Yes, they did.
So it was like,
hilarious. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, does that mean we'll just go back to that? Like, I'm fine with that. I was cool with it. Like, even though, like, everybody, when they first announced Washington football team, we were all like, are you fucking kidding me? They can't even give us a goddamn name. Right. And then after a while, what did it do? Kind of stuck with us. Kind of worked out.
Well, we did win a division with it, KDot.
And there you go. Right. So, like, I don't know, man. It's I still don't think that anything that happens is going to satisfy a significant portion of the population.
Mhm.
If you go back to the name that to the Redskin name,
Yeah.
that feels more racist than having it. Like that's
Sure.
a doubling down, right? So you're not going to do that, and there will be people that are upset if you would do that. I'd be upset if we went back to that, just because I just think that that's doubling down on something that we know was not the right thing to do. If we go back to Washington football team, am I okay with it? Probably. I'm probably more okay with it than anything else, because it seems as though everybody kind of agreed on that averagely. And I think that that's the most you can really ask for from a consensus standpoint with the fan base.
Sure, yeah, and I think this is going to be well said, and I think it's going to end up being a non-story. I don't think we're going to change the name. It seems like ownership is very focused on other
The
things,
important
which
stuff?
I'm personally quite pleased with. More on the field, more renovating FedEx Field to make it passable as an NFL stadium, working on the new stadium.
Right.
I'm cool with where the priorities lie right now. It does seem like this trademark is going to end up being approved, and that this is just a snag. But like you said, and that's the difference between social media and actually reading the article. If you were to read social media, you'd be like, oh, we're definitely changing the name. Definitely.
Right.
And then you read the article and you're like, oh, okay, it's just part of the process. And it's probably going to end up passing over here. So I don't see the name changing. Ultimately, I'm of the opinion a name is a name. And so long as the team's winning, I think that's why people
It's
even
kinda
liked
close.
Washington football team. Oh, we won the division. We went to the playoffs. That was kind of cool. Yeah, I kind of like the name. It's associated with winning all of a sudden.
Right.
Commanders, we didn't have a very good year. So I can understand people going, okay, let's change the name. It's Dan Snyder was still a part of that process, whatever. I understand. And if we do, we do. I'm indifferent. I'm fine to keep Commanders just because it's one less thing for people to worry about. But yeah, we'll end up seeing how it goes. Any final thoughts on this before we move on to OTAs?
Yeah, the only other thing I'll say is that I know I've seen online people, I think, being very, very critical of Jason Wright. And while we've talked about him ad nauseum, and there are a lot of things that you can absolutely give him a lot of shit for, I will chalk this up as one more thing that I will give him some shit for. In the sense of the communication to the public behind the name change was not great. They open it up to hearing from us. They do all the videos and all kinds of shit.
Right.
Then they get to a point where they're like, hey, yeah, we're not going to go with the names that you guys overwhelmingly want because of trademark issues. But then the language, when you have a news story break like this, I feel like they need to be Johnny on the spot or on top of it already, in the sense of preparing people for what the process would look like, and so that it was a non-story. Like, I think that there's a way that this team can be more proactive than reactive to things. And that to me is one of those things where I look at and I'm like, the details, the pieces, all the details matter, and you got to start hitting these things.
Well, I mean, maybe you're oblivious like me and thought the trademark was already done when the name changed. Like, I honestly didn't even think this was a thing that was coming.
Honestly,
right? Like, if you think
Yeah, I
about
didn't
it,
think
like,
about
you
it.
know, you become the Washington Commanders and then the trademark happens. Like, that for me, just from a
So
legality
messy.
process, I had no idea that was the order of things. You could just
Right.
name yourself whatever and then go for the trademark. Anyway, whole thing's
Yeah,
kind of weird.
that's a major fucking point. Because, like, look, you roll out Major Tutty, you do all this shit, and then come to find out, like, you could not get approved. Like, even though we know that this is part of the process, like, there is still a chance. I don't think it's a high chance, but it's still a chance they don't get fucking approved. And if that's the case, like, how sloppy is that? Like, you should get your ducks in a row a little bit better than that shit, especially by how long the process took to begin with. Like,
And then those that wanted Red Wolves or wanted Red Tails or any name are validated, because if this doesn't
Right.
pass, then you go, okay, well, then we could have been something else that the fans really wanted, because we cited trademarking as the reason for the Commander's name primarily. Anyway, although they did also say, hey, the fans wanted this, and that wasn't true. But let's go ahead and move on to OTAs, where once again, Chase Young, he had his 5th-year option not picked up by the team. And so far, he's not shown up to OTAs. Now, the O stands for optional. And so this is a voluntary, workout and being with the team and stuff like that. It is, once again, voluntary. But some people are viewing this as a red flag. KDot, how do you feel about Chase Young not being at OTAs right now?
I want to say I don't care, but I think I'm starting to care more, and I don't know if that's because of all the talk around it compared to what I actually might feel about it. Look, I am a firm believer, as someone who left his 9-to-5 cubicle job behind to start my own thing. It was because I didn't want to do. I don't buy into the workplace as a family. You got to do this. You got to sacrifice this. Oh, well, this is optional, but it'd look really bad if you didn't do it. I don't like that shit. You pay me to be there to do X, Y, and Z.
Passive aggressive bullshit.
Right. As long as I'm there getting the job done, then you leave me the fuck alone. Like, that's kind of like, I always remember when I worked for one particular company and they always just, hey, we're going to do a picnic at King's Dominion. Okay. When is it? Oh, it's on your day off. So you want me to come to King's Dominion with all of you, and it's not work, and it's so I gotta be around you coworkers. I ain't get paid to be there. Fuck you. I ain't doing that. It's my day. So like, there's a part of me that gets that, but at the end of the day, like I said, if you get the job done, Chase Young right now, like we've talked about it, I think he's amazing in run defense. I think that overall, if you're looking at the position that he was picked outside the rookie season, I wouldn't call him a failure. I would just say that he hasn't necessarily lived up to the billing at which we would hope that he would have so far. Especially when you compare him to guys like Micah Parsons. It's like, oh, come on, guys, like where are you at?
Sure. And I don't think it's unfair to do that. I just want to mention that too, because I think a lot of people go, Micah Parsons, he's an all-pro. We picked Chase Young 2 overall.
Yeah.
Okay. And there were quarterbacks on the board, and if you look at it these days, if you have a top 2, top 3 pick, you should be taking a QB. And we chose to take Chase Young over Tua, probably a good move, over Justin Herbert. Hey, you can debate that one. So anyway, please continue, KDot.
Yeah, no, 100%. So like it comes down to the same thing we've been saying about a lot of the OTA stuff, which is what we're going to be throughout the entire offseason. We're going to be ones to splash a lot of cold water on stuff that you hear out of the OTAs. This is how we operate. This is how our brains work. And one of these things is going to be, when it comes to Chase Young, what does he do come September when we're starting the fucking football season? If you are not living up to what it is that we kind of assume that you should be as a second overall pick, that I'm going to look at you and say, maybe I shouldn't blame you for not going to OTAs, but goddamn, whatever you were doing outside of it apparently didn't fucking help you. So why weren't you there? So like, it's one of those things where I won't say anything until it becomes, hey, you could have been doing this within the system of the team. And now you're not living up to what the team expects of you. This is on you, brother. And this is one more reason that we chalk up in the set of reasons that we would say we blame you.
The way I sort of view this, KDot, is look, as a fan, of course I would love for him to be there, because it's easy for me to just get on my phone, scroll, and be like, oh, my team is at all of my players that I root for on the Washington Commanders are at OTAs. They're dialed in. That's awesome. Ultimately, it's just me reading a tweet and I go about my day, or, reading an article, I go about my day. Chase Young, whatever you're doing, or, whatever he's up to, I really don't mind. Okay. Like, it's fine. This will reduce his margin for error though.
Yep.
Right. So like during the season, if he's not living up to it, there is a difference between being at OTAs and going, okay, well, he's trying and he's putting in the work versus, well, he wasn't even there. So like this turns into, for me, a tie break, where if he has an okay season, I think we do try and extend him if he's at OTAs, or at least it's looked at as one extra sort of, okay, he's there, he's bought in, he is a leader. I think he's a natural leader. Like, he's there talking to people and getting them going. He's making the people around him better. Versus not being there and putting up the exact same numbers. Well, now you do have a conversation. Do we bring him back? Do we not? So it's from that perspective. If he balls out, no one cares. This is just something that we're talking about in May. We've already talked about the May news cycle with Emmanuel Forbes and Sam Howell and others. This, to me, is a non-story right now. We just need something to talk about. It becomes a big story if he underperforms or if he's even average. Then we look back and go, okay, why, what were you doing? So we also don't know the reason, as far as I can tell, why he's not here. Could be something very significant, in which case, respect it. So we don't know, ultimately, but right now, non-story can become a big story. That's where I fall on this.
When I was in 4th grade,
love it.
I had a teacher, Miss Ripito. Okay. And I was notorious. There was the first time that I remember I got in trouble at home because my parents found I had a backpack full of homework that I hadn't done. And I remember back then having this thought process that came to full fruition when I reached middle school. And when I had a particular class in 8th grade at Hardy, and the teacher was like going over what my grade was like, dude, why aren't you like doing any of your homework? And I turned to him and I said, look, man, home time is my time. School time is your time. If you can't teach me what it is I need to be taught within the hours that you require me being here, then you fucked up, not me. So like, there's a part of me that has that through line in my core, my soul.
Sure.
It's like, if this optional is fucking optional, motherfucker. Like,
and that's the thing. It is optional. We need to keep stressing that.
But I got hundreds on my tests. So like, I would come and I'd show up and I got hundreds on my tests.
That's right. Performing. Yeah.
So like, at least I brought it when it came to be brought. Now, if Chase goes out here, balls get 20 fucking sacks this year.
No one's talking about OTAs
Shut the fuck up. Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
But, so it all just it's. Like, it ain't fair. It ain't fucking. We just gotta.
And let's also remember Deron Payne last year. He didn't get his option picked up, and he was frustrated with contract extension talks and stuff like that. And I believe he missed part of OTAs. So like, This isn't something that's completely unprecedented. Like, oh my gosh, Chase Young, he has. There is a tendency to pick on him because of his draft status, because of what he means to this city. In particular, and how much people care about him. So yeah, people want to see him succeed, but he also gets picked on as a result, just being from the area and everyone loving him and as charismatic as he is. And so 100%. I think that's also something to keep in mind. Let's talk about Armani Rogers, man, your boy, because again, May silly season when it comes to the reporting. He was doing really, really well at OTAs, and then a non-contact injury. An Achilles injury, a suspected, not confirmed, they're going to find out next week, but a suspected torn ACL, and that is devastating news.
Absolutely torn ACL or torn Achilles?
Oh, I'm sorry, torn Achilles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scared the shit.
Yeah. Different things.
What?
Yeah.
Something else happened?
I think, we go, my brain just defaults to ACL.
Yeah,
ACL. So I appreciate you checking me on that. Could be a torn Achilles. But this is a big loss because it's going to be, there's no timetable for return. Months long injury. And someone that fans were very much looking forward to seeing get more playing time. We're wondering the interaction between him and Eric Bieniemy, what that was going to look like. Because this is brand new. Eric is assessing everybody. EB's assessing everybody from zero. And so this is tough. KDot, what were your thoughts on the injury? Like, how do you think this impacts the offense? Go ahead, floor is yours.
Immediate sadness, and then anger, and then self-loathing. So
so a form of the 5 stages.
Yeah. Okay. Sort of. Look, I was really, really excited to see what he was going to do within the system because we know, Eric Bieniemy's had Travis Kelce, so you're talking about a unicorn, right? But right. The idea would be if you have anybody that can replicate some of the things that Travis Kelce does. The things that Travis Kelce does that can be a standout in the offense. And Armani Rogers was somebody who every time I saw him with the ball in his hand last year, which not a lot, but he blew me away as far as what I was seeing on TV.
It's fast.
It was like, oh my God, we need to give this guy more opportunities to do this, do that, do this. So there's that just sucks. And then also looking at he hasn't been 100% healthy to begin with since he's been here. So it's like, that sucks for him. So there's sadness there.
Mm-hmm.
The anger comes in where it's like, okay, we were hyped about this tight end group last year going into the season,
mm-hmm.
and they all got fucking hurt. And now going into this season, one guy's getting hurt, and you have a history of guys that don't have good track records when it comes to injury. So what did you do to address tight end in the draft or in free agency? Nothing. So then there's the self-loathing part. Because I have been one that is when I look at the offensive line for Washington and other positions, I've been one to kind of temper everybody's expectations, say, hey guys, look, don't worry about it. This is what else could they have done? They had to do this, they had to do that, they had to do that. But then I look at that position group and it's like, they haven't been fucking healthy in 2 seasons. So What makes me think if I'm running off a track record that these guys are going to be more healthy this season. Makes me feel like an idiot for believing that would be the case, or believing in the coaching staff or the front office that would be the case. You base on what it is you've seen. You should make those decisions, not fucking hoping that everyone will be healthy. And I just want to say it different.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, good. No, you're good. I'm done.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I think something we all do, right? Because you go into the season full of optimism and we run the schedule and stuff like that, right? And we make those predictions. We're doing this under the assumption, I think it's implicit, that the team's going to be healthy the whole time. Like, you can't account for certain injuries, right? That's why the offseason is so fun for everybody, because you get a number 1 overall pick, let's say, or you're the Colts with a number 4, Houston with number 2, you're getting your quarterback of the future. And in the case of Houston, you're also getting a leader on defense and Will Anderson. And like, so you're all of a sudden, you're able to play this game on paper and go, how can we not be great?
Right.
Well, this is what happens. And this is what happens to every team. And for some reason, it feels like it's happening to us a heck of a lot more than it's happening to other teams. You look at the revolving door at offensive line last season. You talk about the tight ends. We didn't really address it. There was hope for Armani Rogers for that reason. Hey, we didn't address it. We believe in this group. Opportunity to step up. And so, yeah, no, this really hurts. The reports are that he's likely out for the season. Once again, there is no official timetable, though. So we don't know until next week. But those are early indications.
I'll tell you right now, since December, I think December, I've had my Achilles feels like it's on fire. It fucking hurts like a son of a bitch. Like, even right now, I'm just sitting here.
So we can't go to you to tight end.
My Achilles fucking hurts. Like, now I'm just a fat fuck who barely does anything, right? Like even when I go to the mall and I'm walking around, I start realizing, like, if I walk for like 45 minutes and then sit down for 5 to then walk again, I'm spent. I have my fucking foot in ice the rest of the goddamn day. And the doctors tell me that, like, all right, yeah, they had a name for it. I forget what the fuck it was. But they're like, you need to stay off your feet for like a week and a half, 2 weeks completely. Yeah. Like, you fucking ice it and elevate the shit. I'm not a professional athlete. I will say I feel for him, because this motherfucker hurts, boy. I tell you what, it ain't good. It ain't a nice feeling. It ain't a nice fucking feeling. It feels like somebody's got a blowtorch on my fucking Achilles. It's a son of a bitch. And I can only imagine what he's going through.
Man, seriously. Because if it's a months long, like, requires, that's a full tear. That's a full tear.
Actually, it hurts worse than I've also torn everything in my knee. My ACL, all that's gone.
Are you officially our doctor or injury expert? I think we should do that moving forward.
If I can remember I was drunk.
Right, you take your time. Yeah, you take your time and you try and remember the sensation and explain what's going on for the player when they get hurt.
Yeah, well, I don't think they were skipping downstairs 12 years ago and then heard a wet crunch in their fucking knee.
No, I would. Well, okay, we can.
Wet crunch. That's exactly what it felt like. Meniscus gone. ACL tore. All that shit just gone.
Jeez.
Actually, my current girlfriend, who was at the door, I was excited to see her and her friends, but we weren't dating yet. We were just friends. And I was skipping down the stairs, and I missed time. There were 3 stairs, not 2 stairs. I panicked. So I could take all 3. I couldn't take all 3, Amit. I couldn't.
I love the subtlety of the word current with current girlfriend. Anyway, why don't we go ahead and just move on to the comment mailbag, where we got actually a number of comments here, KDot. And yes. So we appreciate all the comments. And
very much
appreciate,
so.
I think a couple of people that are new to the show. And so we're going to shout all of you out, starting right now, beginning with Earl Bruce, who has commented many times before. Earl, shout out to you, sir. The Slim Reaper, referring to Emmanuel Forbes, will feast on the NFC East. I love that name.
That's the best name I've heard in quite some time.
Yeah. I believe Kevin Durant had it for a little bit, but now there are questions about him and his legacy since the Phoenix Suns are out and he tried to join another super team. So I think Slim Reaper's up for grabs.
Slim Reaper is legit. It's not as good as Grim Weeper, which happens in another thing, but there's
Hey, we want him to feast, just to be clear. We want Emmanuel Forbes to feast. And if you're to believe these current reports, he will. But yeah, cautiously optimistic over there. Really appreciate the comment there, Earl. Moving on to Al Roche, another longtime commenter. Really appreciate you, Al. Worst QB situation in the league. Don't know why they're going into the season with 2 QBs when they've seen 2 QBs get hurt in 1 game. Ridiculous. Thank you for the comment, Al. Appreciate that. It is a bad QB situation if you were to look at it relative to others. That being said, I think there is reason for optimism with Sam Howell. I think he did have a nice last game. I think I'm still very heavy on the see space, take space. I think his decision making is really good for a guy that young, which I really like. So I think it's actually I wouldn't call it the worst in the league, but it's definitely bottom half because we just don't know what we have, KDot.
I like Jacoby Brissett. I like, as far as having a veteran that's there, that I got a pretty good expectation of what it is I'm going to get from him. Looking at what happened in Cleveland and everything, like I'm good with it. Like, it's I like the 49ers trying to sell themselves on what Sam Darnold. Like, I don't buy that. But it's like I don't know. There's like and then the two quarterback thing. Actually, in the league meetings just now, they approved the emergency quarterback thing.
They did. That is big news. Yes.
So when I hear that and knowing that they can have another vet or somebody that they might trust or believe in kind of sitting by the wayside, you don't need to use the active roster spot.
Right.
I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit better.
And Al's comment also, just to be clear, this came in before the
that
approval of So just want to let people know about that as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's all dependent on when that Sam Howell can play, but it's the same way you'd be if you drafted a quarterback and you had a veteran presence. It's whether or not you believe in Jacoby Brissett being the veteran presence. I do. I don't think you're getting lights out, but I think you can get a quarterback if the team is right.
Lights out from a backup outside of San Francisco because the system they run is so unbelievably good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Appreciate the comment there, Al. Then we move on to Tony P56. Shout out, Tony. Appreciate you. Spiritual KDot doesn't sit in a chair for podcasts. Spiritual KDot levitates off the floor. And right you are, Tony. That's something that we don't discuss very often. KDot, being the spiritual leader that he is levitating right now, in fact.
Mm-hmm. It's the only way to keep the weight off my Achilles.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's very, very well played, sir. We then move on to D. Shout out D. First time commenter because first time watching the show. Loved it. I'll be tuned in from here on out. D, we really appreciate that comment. Appreciate you loving the show. Absolutely. And we hope to hear from you again this week on this week's episode. And then we got Dev or Dave, or no, looks like Dev probably. Because Dave, also an Indian name. We're gonna go with Dev. Two different comments. First one, good pod, fellas. Really appreciate that, Dev. And then we've got the second comment. If Sam Howell works, Ron and them are geniuses. If it doesn't work, he's fired. He's known as Riverboat Rob. I think we meant Ron. Life is a gamble. What I don't get is why you would give this kid 18 throws or some shit in a meaningless game at the end of the season if that's what Ron's thought process was. And that's a good point, because we also talked about how his initial plan was to give it to Taylor. And Taylor basically said, go fuck yourself. And then Sam played. And Sam won the game. So it does make you wonder about the QB evaluation. Certainly, when it comes to these guys. What are you saying here, KDot? Go ahead.
I think the last part of our buddy Dev's question negates the first part of his question.
Do you think so?
They're not geniuses, even if it works out.
No, but now they're choosing. But now they're choosing to roll with it, right? So
you don't get credit.
Would you call that an adjustment? No.
Credit. But you don't get credit. They
drafted him.
Yeah, you get okay. In what round?
5th round.
With what quarterbacks were on the what quarterbacks were on the roster?
Listen, I'm not going to argue too hard with you.
I'm just saying, like, so you had a dude that was projected as a first round pick that fell to you for the 5th round. You get credit for pulling the trigger. But the idea that you never once thought about going to him until your backup quarterback tells you should go to him means you probably don't get a lot of credit. If he doesn't play in that final game, we're looking at a shit show at the quarterback position. We are looking at Sam Howell's possibly 3rd on the depth chart again. They go try to find another veteran. If it's not bringing back Carson Wentz, just imagine Taylor Heineke having the brains to say, hey guys, why don't you go take a look at Sam? Might have saved the entire offseason. So like I'm not giving Ron and crew a whole lot of credit on this particular thing if it works out, other than pulling the trigger in the first place. Because they did everything they possibly could do to not make this thing work out.
Well, okay. And so then there is a reply to Dev's comment from Kyle Blankenship. Shout out, Kyle.
Oh.
And this is what this says. Perhaps he wanted to go in earlier, but leaned on Wentz since they brought him in and felt they needed to give him his shot for what we paid for him. Perhaps some upper heads influencing the decision. There were some rumors about Dan Snyder being pretty involved when it came to bringing in Carson Wentz, so maybe there's some of that. Who knows? He definitely gambles on things, so this could just be chalked up as a bad gamble on his part at a crucial time last season, probably referring to Wentz. He might be circling back in his gut feeling, and it'll pay off. I'm optimistic.
We cannot forget Taylor Heineke was the onus on making that happen.
Yes.
We cannot lose sight of that.
Yes, that is, again, true. Because the moment that came out, there was a lot of outrage. And I mean, honestly, and I love Taylor Heineke. Absolutely love Taylor. Didn't even want him benched after the San Francisco game. Even I was pissed off. I was like, it's a meaningless game. Give it to Sam. I think every fan at that point was like, come on. The game doesn't matter anymore. Give it to the kid. And Ron was willing to give it to Taylor.
So that's what you got to realize. What in the world was going through Ron's head that he thought that was an option?
Look, I don't know. You already know my feelings on Ron.
I get it.
So I'm just trying to keep it somewhat objective as well. But yeah, what was going through his head? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe
they didn't think Sam was ready. At best, they didn't think Sam was ready.
And I think that came through whenever Logan Paulson was talking on his show, right? Because Logan Paulson kept saying he's not ready. And fans, I think rightfully so, were like, based on what? You don't know until the guy goes in. It's been 10 plus weeks at this point. Not to say he was ready at that time, but maybe he was, like, just based off of like who was telling people he's not ready.
Well, my thing is like I don't even go that far because like I did hear also that when looking at him during practice, he didn't seem ready. He did
plenty of people who are really good practice players that are bad in the game. Bad practice players great in the game. Like, anyway,
completely understand. The only thing for me is, regardless of ready or not ready in the final game where it was meaningless, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea to retread Taylor instead of just at least, even if it was Taylor, even if it was Taylor, you're going to start the game. We're going to give Sam Howell some shot in the second half. If that was the game plan. Okay, I can even roll with that to some degree. But the idea that we're not going to see Sam Howell play at all, hard to swallow.
Yeah. Hey, I 100% agree with that. There is no devil's advocate to that. That should have been handled much, much more smoothly at that time. It should have just been Sam immediately after we were eliminated. That's it. Should have been the play. Anyway, so that was the common mailbag. This is District Divided, DC Sports Podcast, more specifically a Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. Thank you guys for listening. We already did give our plug for the show, so please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, and comment. We love talking about the comments. Heck, it spurred some pretty fun conversation just now about Sam Howell, about Emmanuel Forbes, the Slim Reaper, perhaps. That would be pretty cool.
Give Amit his birthday wish. Like, he didn't do the annoying thing and go on Facebook and say, raise money for some cancer research or some shit. No, he's asking you to simply like the video that you're watching. Subscribe to the channel that you're watching.
Nice.
And share it with someone else. You ain't got to reach in your pockets for anything. It's not that. Click, click, click.
It would go a long way.
And a happy birthday to Amit.
Thank you very much, Kate. And I do really, really appreciate it. And yeah, no, we love you guys. And we look forward to seeing you next week after the pod begins right now. So, KDot, before the episode began, we were talking about golf.
Yes.
And we were talking about the occasional bane of my existence, former co-host of the show, Matt Regan. So we have placed another bet. And this time, it was originally a $500 golf match because neither of us knew how to play. And we both expressed interest in learning how to play. And so I said originally because that was going to be the primary motivator for learning. And boy, did it motivate me. All right. So I started going to the driving range probably like once a week or something like that, or every other week. And then I would occasionally play 9 holes. And let me tell you, I am so bad at golf. so bad. I actually got worse over time. Normally, if you're investing time and money into something, you would hope to get a little bit better, or at least stay steady, which is frustrating enough. I'm getting worse because all I'm doing is developing a mental block
You're
in
overthinking.
my brain, overthinking like crazy. I have a Google Doc where I'm like, these are the steps to get out of
Fucking
overthinking.
Charles Barkley up there.
Which is, I mean, honestly, I like had to figure out all these different things to sort this out. Fortunately, Matt suggested, hey, $500 a lot amongst friends. I politely reminded him we are not friends. And then he said, let's do $200 after understanding it was a joke. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. $200. Then it got reduced again per his suggestion again to a night out. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Night out. So I'm basically poker facing my way into, thank God this isn't $500 anymore. Thank God this isn't $200 anymore. Although night out can get up there. But that match is tomorrow, KDot. 9 holes. I think we get 1 mulligan on a tee shot. Other than that, it's stroke play. It's not match play, which I guess some people think is like, oh, you score the hole, whoever wins the hole, and then it's like 5-4 or something like that. This is stroke play. I think the tiebreaker would be who won the holes and stuff like that. But that's what's going on, KDot. And I think I finally got over my mental block is what I wanted to say. I already lost a bet today. But I think I did, because the last time I went and played 9, I shot 58, which for me is huge. For me is really, really good. My very first hole, I hit a 9. I was immediately overthinking. I was like, here we go again. This is bad. And then I settled down. I remembered my basics. I remembered my training. I took a breath. I'm nervous about tomorrow, though.
As you probably should be.
Yeah.
Also, I've always hated East Potomac Golf Course. I always hate that. I fucking hate that.
Well, so I go to the driving range there. I typically golf at Rock Creek,
Oh,
further up north.
got it.
Yeah.
Hate Rock Creek too.
Yeah, apparently not a good course. But
No, DC does not have any good courses. But there's I prefer the courses up here in Baltimore actually. Than DC.
But you golf, or you did golf, is what you were telling me.
Oh, so like in high, I think I figured out it was high school. I'd have to talk to Brendan to figure out exactly, because that's how much I cared about it. The only reason I did it was that it was on Wednesdays, Wednesdays or Fridays, they put us on a bus. We'd leave school at like 1 p.m. And I missed the last 2 hours of school. So it was like that was the reason I went.
Yeah, people did stuff for many, many reasons. I joined the track team back in high school because I wanted to impress a girl. She quit 2 weeks later, and I was on the track team for 2 years. I mean, it just happens.
Bad move.
Awful move.
But I was absolutely terrible. I'm bad at golf. I can putt fairly well, but I like driving range, everything. I fucking suck. I've always sucked. Like even we were talking before about Top Golf. I've never done it. Like I've never even done Top Golf. Like I usually suck at golf overall. I just did it as a way to leave school early for 2 hours and go eat half smokes at a little grill they got at East Potomac, where I play putt or miniature golf.
Oh yeah, hey, great.
This is my shit. Hey, I love miniature golf. I love it. As a matter of fact, bachelor party for our boy last year, our team smoked because I'm pretty good at fucking putting. Like
there you go.
We smoked those fools, and like the dudes that we go every weekend. You know, the business meeting, we go out to the course of it. Fuck off.
No, that won't be me. It'll never be me. But it has been a lot of fun.
It should be that
this sport.
So this is one thing that I will say in my 30s. I've realized that it is something I need to actually start getting better at. Golf.
It is a good social tool. It is a very, very good social tool.
Usually good social tool.
For sure.
There's another component, too, that never gets talked about, and I probably shouldn't talk about it in a public setting like this, even though I think enough people know about it that it's okay that I can say.
Here we go.
If you have a daughter, ever, the only thing you need to make sure is grilled into her is to play golf. There's a reason. Every year, universities around the country have thousands of full-ride golf scholarships that go unused because there's not enough women that play golf.
Oh my goodness, this is brilliant.
So apparently, like, you don't have to be that good. Like, if you're okay, if you can hold your own in a tournament with, once again, not a whole lot of people playing, you get a full ride.
Okay, this is legitimately the best idea I've ever heard.
But then outside of that is, if you're talking about raising a woman in a lot of, we all know how sexism and stuff works inside the workplace.
Right.
If you can get a woman to actually be decent at fucking golf, if she decides get her full ride scholarship, maybe she does business, maybe she does her own thing. When it comes to the social activity of it, and she's a force to be reckoned with because she played college fucking golf, which is better than some jackass that goes going every right.
Okay, we're on the same page immediately.
Right. That is a fucking, that to me is a chess gold move. Like it is a platinum move. So like that is something that I've heard from a couple people that I know that they're like, no, golf. Or they do gymnastics, they can, but we not care about that as much as we care about the golf thing. They got to be good at golf.
Fascinating.
It's
how'd you hear about this? How did this come across your radar?
I've heard of it a few times over the years. So I've always kind of known that if I had a daughter, it was going to be soccer and golf were the main two things.
Okay.
Gymnastics is terrifying, scary, and dangerous. So is cheerleading. I feel more about cheerleading and gymnastics than I do about football. They are more dangerous to me than that. Like because I got friends that have kids that do that shit. But then I've also talked to so like my route to try to go to college was very how should we say not normal and
adventurous.
Adventurous. I like that. Adventurous. Yeah, as you see, what I said earlier in the pod about the whole homework philosophy, they did not treat me well as far as my grades went in school. So when I lost my full-ride scholarship to James Madison University, because I took a month and a half off my senior year of school just because I could.
Playing golf.
Smoking weed in my Jeep Cherokee. Was sitting right outside school just looking at it. I put my phone on the counter of my goddamn dashboard. I look at the school and I'm like, please, somebody call me. Tell me they're doing something. Oh, the phone rang. We're at McDonald's, I'm on my way. And I just drive away. I get phone calls from the teacher. I get friends that would, yo, Miss Thompson wants to know, did you drop out? It's like, I'll be there eventually. That's my dumbass, okay? But I was always hearing about that. Like when I went to Montgomery College and we had to figure out articulation agreements for what university, if I was going to transfer to, this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. And you sit down and you have like long conversation with the admissions people, long conversation. And it's like they would always say that, yeah, this part of it is the most underrepresented part from an athletic standpoint. There's just not enough people to do this.
That's amazing.
And it's like, well, that's fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, like how many people do you, when I saw people I was on a golf team, I'm like, what the fuck is a golf team? I didn't compete in anything. I just fucking went. And it was like, and guess what? I put it on every fucking application or when they talk about extracurriculars, I was on the fucking golf team. And it fucking carries weight.
Golf is a lot of fun, man. Once you actually, here's the thing where I'm struggling. I want to say once you're actually good, but I don't know what that's like. Once you actually make semi-consistent contact, I think I'm at that point. It actually does get kind of fun. Oh, some went a little to the right, some went a little to the left, and then you start
the most you can
messing around with it a little bit. I think that's where I'm at right now.
You'll never be good at it.
With a 7-iron, 9-iron, pitching wedge. Like I feel good with those, which is a big part of it because once you get to around 150 yards away, I actually feel kind of comfortable. I'm like, okay, I think I'm all right, or I think I'm all right now. The tee shots in particular fuck me up. The moment I get a driver in my hand, I freak out. I'm like, oh man, am I swinging right? Like all the overthinking occurs, the mechanics, the this, the that, instead of just swinging because I'm so worried it's going to slice 600 yards to the right and go 0 yards straight. Like, I mean, it is just,
you'll never be good at it.
I'm not even sure that's my goal.
But that's the thing is you start realizing there's not a lot of people that are good at it. There are a lot of people that like, even the people that I know, like when I lived down in Virginia and my ex-wife's mother's boyfriend who went every weekend, twice a weekend, all the fucking time. He went golfing all the fucking time. And the most he could hope for is when they did like an invitational tournament between all the other 50, 60-something-year-old white men in Northern Virginia, that he could get a trophy occasionally. But that's the most you could hope for. When you actually watch like a legit golfer do things, you're like, oh, okay. That's why this fucking thing is hard. And that's why they get paid the big bucks to do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
The best golfer that I know probably in our age bracket From what I've seen, maybe Chris.
Zab?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you refer to Lexi as Zab, right?
No, he's Lex.
Oh, he's Lexi. Okay, so we got Zab.
Yeah, Zab.
We got Zab there.
Zab.
That does not surprise me at all. Chris is an
I think
athlete.
he's probably the best. He's the best overall.
Yeah. I need to go golfing with him in that case.
And I've never really fully played golf with him. It's like there's I don't play golf. I like I said, I want to, but the few times I've ever been on a golf course, it's just, hey, Canadian wants beer and wants to drive the golf cart. You don't really care about.
Hey, by the way, in the in the comment mailbag, and KDot, same question for you, but in the comment mailbag, please put down any golf tips you have. That would also be huge. Just generally speaking, it would be pretty cool if this random DC sports podcast had a bunch of golf advice at the bottom of this video, which would be pretty cool. What advice do you have?
All right, it's a multi-pronged approach. Number one, have a daughter. Number two, hire a tutor. Number three, ask AI, open or chat GPT if there's any advice you could give your daughter about golf, and then go from there. It ain't about me, buddy. It's about the next generation.
Any advice for me tomorrow?
And if it's a son, fuck off. You're not playing golf. It's boring. You're not doing shit. Fuck you.
Any
go play a real sport.
Any advice for me tomorrow, KDot? In anticipation of this match, knowing I've already lost a bet to Matt. Now that one was a bit more out of my control. The Commanders losing to the Detroit Lions, and then I had to run a 10K solo.
It's $200, right?
It's going to end up being around 200.
Yeah, beat him half to death with the golf club.
I haven't heard that one yet, so I actually do appreciate the unique.
It's $200
on that. Yeah, make sure he can't move. Well, we see the thing is he's on my men's soccer team as well. Need him for the season.
You got to pick something, man. You can't be Well, we talked before the podcast about Seinfeld and Costanza being the best.
Yeah.
You're combining worlds, the mingling. Keep separate.
Okay. Maybe I'll do that. I do think I can win tomorrow. I do think
I'm hoping for you, man. I really do. I don't want to see Matt win shit.
I'm done with it. To be honest, man, I'm absolutely done with it. He's got this air of confidence and arrogance that just amongst my friend group, and maybe this speaks more to my friends and the way I choose them, is completely rivaled. Far too many of them have unbridled confidence and arrogance. But
I just see him in all
losing
of his,
to those people.
His Ann Arbor-ness. Like he probably got some fucking what is it, navy and maize polo shirt. Like,
he's definitely rocking one of those tomorrow. My initial plan with the $500 I won was to donate it to the Ohio State University, just to piss him off. Like it was just going to be like I was going to get a big check, and he was going to have to take a photo with it, with me shaking it hand. Like I had it all planned out. Like that's how much I want to beat this guy.
And donate to the Cleveland Revitalization Project, because there will only be one in those northern Midwest states to become the second city. It won't be Detroit. So give it to Cleveland.
So help Cleveland out.
Help Cleveland make sure that as far as dilapidated, shitty cities, they are always one step ahead of Detroit.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. That is incredible. Hey, real quick before we go. Once again, guys, spoiler tags, all that jazz. We're going to be talking about Succession. Because we need to.
Yes.
Before we log off over here. So once again, you have 5 seconds to leave, and then after that, it's all sorts of spoilers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. KDot, last week's episode, what were your thoughts?
Succession is now the second best TV show of all time. And I'm kind of like dramas. And drama is drama. Yeah. It's not comedy stuff. It surpassed The Sopranos for me this last episode.
That's huge.
If you know me, it's really big for me. It is now just below The Wire. This last episode was absolutely incredible.
Would you say it's more entertaining than The Wire, though? Because from what I've heard about The Wire, okay, so there's best and then there's entertaining. Because I think from what I've heard about The Wire, and I still need to watch it, I still owe that to you, brother. Is that
you owe it to yourself,
and I owe it to myself. It is a tough watch at times. And I mean, Succession is too, but there's some parts of The Wire that make it you're just sort of depressed. You're like, oh man,
I wrote this on Twitter in response to Van Lathan, who had just posted a few days ago that he said it's clearly better than The Sopranos. He feels the only comp is The Wire. My response was, this last episode sealed it. The Sopranos is absolutely fantastic, but there are story arcs and episodes that are just bad. Succession is the second greatest TV show of all time, but the most entertaining show of all time.
Oh, you said that.
The Wire is a better
the
show.
Mind
and also
meld
less
is
entertaining.
beginning. The co-hosts are beginning to mind meld here.
So,
okay.
Yeah, the Wire can be slow. It's like The Godfather. I think The Godfather,
Which
Godfather 2.
I haven't seen.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The Godfather and The Godfather 2 are two of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. The two of the greatest movies ever made. If I'm sitting here on a Sunday and I want to watch a movie, if Goodfellas is an option, I'm always shooting it over those two.
Okay.
I don't think it's a superior movie. I don't. I don't think you can ever think Goodfellas is a superior movie to The Godfather.
I see.
That being said, it is so much more entertaining than The Godfather. The Godfather takes work. It takes commitment. It takes, I've got to sit down here and I've got to kind of pour over my feelings and what's happening with this, that, and the other. The Wire asks the same of you. The Wire asks you to keep track of stuff at a level at which no other show does. The Wire asks you to remember this character from that past season. Remember what they did to deserve this thing that's happening to them. Remember what's happening as far as the politics, the jobs, this, that, and the other. Succession, you can line up any fucking day of the week. And as long as you're in the right mind frame to watch, which is another thing a lot of people have difficulty with when they first start it. When people first start the show, they think it is a pure streamlined drama. What they don't realize is the funniest show on TV.
It is so good. Greg has so many lines,
oh my God,
by the way, that are just incredible. I mean,
but it's beyond the joke stuff. Like the Tom Gregg joking, beyond that, it's when you see in what was it last season when Roman accidentally sends Logan the dick pic.
Yes.
And the way that Karen Culkin hunches in the seat, gets all small like a little chick, is the funniest shit you can see. It's incredible. But it's all those moments. You're more served watching British television to understand how it is Succession works. I feel like in order to really appreciate it, you got to kind of have a fundamental understanding of British TV.
Can I take a moment though just to applaud Kieran Culkin for the scene when they're at the funeral and he starts clamming up, getting nervous, and then goes over to his siblings, calls them over for a moment, starts sobbing. That's one thing.
I cried.
You could feel it when he said, "Can we get him out?"
Yep.
Like,
I've heard that said at a funeral more than once.
Can we get him out? And my heart just sank. It was like, oh my gosh, like it is now hitting him like completely. He's like, Dad, I just need you to be alive. Can you please get out? Like, this is not. Yeah, and like I felt emotional, and that was like, man, that is supreme acting, because the way his voice went higher and like, and also the impact it had on the president, or like, president-elect, and people being able to step up,
seeing Menkins and Matson's face reacting to it, and that's why I dropped that line early in the episode, the Grim Weeper, which is what Menken calls him after. No, I agree with you full tilt. It was incredible acting. But to me, the reason I finally figured out this week, I was like, okay, it's better than The Sopranos. The moment that sealed it for me was Kendall's speech. And
damn good. I hope I have some of that in me. Like that line was.
Well, did you hear that? That wasn't on the page. Apparently, that was not on the page.
What wasn't that particular line? I hope I have some of that.
No, the whole thing. The 4 minutes and 51 seconds was not on the page. That's Jeremy. My understanding is that's Jeremy.
Jeremy Strong just was like, okay, got it.
Apparently, they're sitting in that church or whatever for 6 hours that day shooting. So they everybody was and you got to remember, all the actors, all the players are sitting there in the background. You got some stars just sitting there watching everything kind of play out, and they're trying things and they keep going for 6 hours during this motherfucker. My understanding, if I heard correctly, was that that was Jeremy Strong.
Wow.
It wasn't improv. I'm sure he practiced what he was going to say.
Pieces, and he would have, and
I'm stringing it all together. But that is, so when I heard that, to me, what it did was it made me realize that Kendall Roy and the performance that Jeremy Strong is giving, I don't think it's as good, but it is rivaling Gandolfini's role as Tony Soprano, which I think is the greatest ever in the history of television.
Wow. Okay.
And when I see that happening, when I see that there's a meld happening between the actor and the character to a point where I can't distinguish anymore. Because if you hear Jeremy Strong doing interviews, the language, the vocabulary that he uses, same as Kendall.
Similar. Okay.
It's
Same.
like
not even similar. Same.
Same. Where you literally afterwards you're like, is that a fucking word? And then you gotta look it up and you're like, you just dropped that, you son of a bitch? Like, you almost get irate at him. There's an annoyance you have with like, you could have used the synonym that I understood, you son of a bitch. Like, and there isn't. And you chose to do that. Like, there's a little bit of, but that's Kendall's character. Kendall will say something, you're like, you could have said that differently, asshole. You don't need to prove to me that you're smarter than me. There's a level at which it's an amazing performance. And I think that with the fact that I've not seen a weak episode of this show, not once. There's not one story arc or storyline that I'm not completely solidified with. Other than stuff in the pilot that might not get brought up anymore.
Who knows what's going to happen, man? I mean, turning their father's funeral into a chess game, a political chess game, was unbelievable because you're watching each. Oh, of course, it had to be, but just like legitimately, everyone's there, right? All the players are there because they're brought. Everyone is just trying to grab the crown, and they're all there because the guy whose head has the crown right now is dead. It's just so amazing, and every little thing matters. Roman crying, then Kendall stepping up, then Shiv finding out that American CEO makes sense, and that it'll be her. And I love the dramatization of that, where she turns around and is like smiling, and like because when you see it from that lens, it's like, oh man, something big just happened. And then you see it from Roman and Kendall's perspective without the music, where they're like, look at her. And she just turns around and makes that face to no one.
Super bomb over there doing it. There's so many things that come. Perfect. It's
scene,
absolutely incredible.
Different perspective. Yeah. And it was so funny versus like, oh wow, something big just happened.
Well, it's the highs and lows, because in that same episode, you have Shiv have the conversation with her mom in which she admits she's probably not going to raise this kid, and this is what I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose the business life. You have her and Tom, which, like I've been saying, and everything I predicted, they are going to end up fucking together. But the relationship feels so goddamn similar. The conversation she just has with Tom, and you could see, just go back to the apartment, and there's a moment of her that you could see that there's like a caring, and then the phone call, and there's something that happens on that phone call to me that also makes Succession amazing, which is that Mattson clearly says the U.S. CEO, he does not name Shiv. He goes out of his way not to name Shiv, which makes me think, when people have the power rankings at the beginning of the episode about Greg being the guy, I think Greg, it might be Greg then. I think it might be Greg then.
God.
I think it legit might be, because Greg went out with Mattson.
Yep.
Greg will be your puppet as long as you give him what he wants. He's learned how to be the ultimate puppet.
Yes, that is true. I mean, heck, even he was willing to auction off. Remember when Tom was supposed to be one of the people rolling the casket over, and then Greg all of a sudden is in that position doing it, and they made that an important piece. So like he is finding ways. That is a really good point. I didn't even think about that. US CEO is in play.
He did not say Shiv's name.
He did not say Shiv. Fucking hell! I'm about to rewatch that.
He did not say. No, that's another thing about the show. If it is better on a rewatch,
right? And that's a good point. If it is a puppet, I think you're right. Oh my gosh!
But also, you also got to think about.
Right. I think it's gonna be Greg, because then Mattson could do everything.
Mattson, back in the Norway episode, tells Shiv about the negotiating with her brothers and how annoying it is. Just say a number. Just say what you want, and I'll give you what. And Shiv's been playing this game,
bro.
Mattson hates that. You don't think Greg would say what he wants?
It feels like a spoiler. That is so accurate. It feels like a spoiler. I think you're right.
But who knows? It might not go that way. But I can totally see it happening. But anything can happen.
I think you're right. My only request, because I don't think I'm going to be able to see it on Sunday, is that you wait. I will text you, because I know you're going to see it Sunday at 9. I know that.
Maybe not. I've not watched a single episode of Succession Sunday at 9.
Okay, so let's agree that we can reach out on Wednesday.
That works. Monday, I am doing a pod about it. So
perfect.
I'll be doing a podcast
if you're
about
doing
it.
Monday, so then Tuesday you can reach out and be like, okay, we've seen it, and then we can determine Well, we'll
I
know.
I cannot fucking wait. This show,
it's gonna be
people. I mean, if you're here, you're watching with us, so you understand. If you're here and because you just want to hear us talk about it, and you have no desire to fucking watch it, reevaluate your life decisions, people.
It's
reevaluate.
It's absolutely incredible.
It's great.
Oh,
it's fucking great.
Anyway, this is the show, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Enjoy Succession. See ya.
Absolutely.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.